It was just before dawn when the world changed. In the gray silence over southern Ukraine, a squadron of Ukrainian FPV drones lifted off, their electric motors barely louder than the wind. The mission was simple, but the stakes were anything but. Intelligence had pinpointed a Russian armored column massing near the village of Novopil, preparing for a push that could threaten the entire southern front. For weeks, Russian forces had advanced with impunity. Their convoys rolling through fields and villages, their artillery pounding Ukrainian positions. But this time, the defenders had a new weapon and a new plan. The drones flew low, hugging the contours of the land, invisible to radar and nearly silent to the human ear. Each carried a warhead designed to punch through armor, but their true power lay in their coordination. This was not a random attack. It was a symphony of precision, orchestrated by operators miles away, watching live feeds from the drone's cameras. Every movement was calculated, every target pre-selected. The operators' hands hovered over their controls, nerves taut, eyes locked on screens as the drones closed in. Russian soldiers, confident in their armor and numbers, lounged beside their vehicles, unaware of the threat approaching from above. The first warning came too late, a sharp, metallic whine, then a flash as the lead tank erupted in flame. Chaos exploded across the column. Soldiers scrambled for cover, shouting orders, firing blindly into the sky. But the drones were relentless, weaving through smoke and shrapnel, striking with surgical precision. In minutes, the Russian advance was shattered. Panic rippled through the Russian ranks as the second wave of drones descended. Operators, watching from their hidden command post, shifted their focus to the rear of the column, targeting fuel trucks and command vehicles. The strategy was clear: cripple the enemy's ability to regroup or counterattack. As the drones dove, their cameras captured every detail. The confusion on soldiers' faces, the frantic attempts to reposition anti-aircraft guns, the desperate radio calls for air support. But the Russian air defense net, designed for high-flying jets and missiles, struggled to track these nimble, low-flying threats. By the time the first Strela launcher locked on, 3 more vehicles were already burning. The Ukrainian command center monitored the operation in real time, analysts mapping the destruction and relaying updates to frontline units. Each successful strike was a message. The era of unchecked Russian advances was over. The drones, cheap and expendable, were rewriting the rules of the battlefield. For the first time, Russian commanders faced an enemy that could strike anywhere, anytime, with near total impunity. The psychological impact was immediate. Reports from intercepted Russian communications revealed panic and disbelief. "We're under attack from ghosts," one officer shouted,
Nice.
his voice cracking over the radio. As the sun crested the horizon, the full scale of the devastation became clear. Smoke billowed from destroyed tanks and trucks, the one-sortily column now a graveyard of twisted metal. Ukrainian infantry, emboldened by the chaos, surged forward to exploit the breach. The Russian retreat began, not with a command, but with a rout. Soldiers abandoning vehicles, fleeing on foot, leaving behind equipment and wounded comrades. The drone strike had not just stopped the advance, it had broken the will to fight. In the aftermath, Ukrainian reconnaissance teams moved swiftly, documenting the destruction and securing the area. The footage they captured would soon circle the globe, a testament to the new face of warfare. Charred hulls of Russian tanks, their turrets blown skyward, littered the fields. Abandoned supply trucks, still smoldering, marked the path of the retreat. The air was thick with the acrid scent of burning fuel and scorched earth. For the Ukrainian soldiers, it was a moment of vindication, a proof that ingenuity and resolve could overcome even the most daunting odds. Back at the drone command post, operators reviewed the mission data, their faces illuminated by the glow of monitors. Every strike, every maneuver, had been recorded in high definition. The team's leader, a former engineer turned tactician, replayed the critical moments, analyzing what had worked and what could be improved. The success was undeniable, but so was the need to adapt. Russian forces would not make the same mistakes twice. Already, intelligence suggested they were scrambling to reinforce their air defenses and develop countermeasures. Yet, the psychological blow had been dealt. Russian morale, already strained by months of grinding conflict, took a visible hit. Social media channels lit up with videos of the strike shared by Ukrainian officials and independent journalists alike. The message was clear: Russian armor was no longer invincible. The world watched as a new chapter in military history unfolded, one where small teams with modest resources could outmaneuver and outfight a larger, better-equipped adversary. For Ukraine, it was more than a tactical victory. It was a symbol of hope, resilience, and the power of innovation. The story of the drone strike spread quickly, not just across Ukraine, but around the world. News outlets replayed the dramatic footage, analysts dissected every frame, and military experts debated the implications. In Moscow, the Kremlin's response was swift and defensive. Official statements downplayed the losses, blaming technical malfunctions and enemy propaganda. But the truth was impossible to hide. Satellite images confirmed the destruction. Intercepted communications revealed the chaos that had gripped Russian command. For the first time, the myth of Russian military invulnerability was shattered in real time. It's witnessed by millions. Inside Ukraine, the mood shifted from grim determination to cautious optimism. Civilians in nearby towns, who had lived under the shadow of occupation, emerged from shelters to cheer the Ukrainian advance. Volunteers rushed to deliver supplies to the front, and local officials coordinated efforts to evacuate the wounded and repair damaged infrastructure. The drone operators, once anonymous figures in a hidden bunker, became national heroes. Their faces, blurred for security, appeared on television screens and social media feeds, symbols of a new kind of warfare, one that relied on brains as much as bravery. Meanwhile, Russian soldiers who survived the strike recounted their ordeal in hushed tones. Some described the terror of being hunted by unseen enemies, the sense of helplessness as their vehicles exploded around them. Others spoke of confusion and betrayal, blaming their commanders for failing to anticipate the attack. The retreat from Novopil became a cautionary tale, a lesson in the dangers of underestimating an opponent willing to innovate and adapt. For the Russian military, the loss was more than material. It was a blow to confidence, a crack in the armor of authority, as the Ukrainian forces consolidated their gains. Military analysts around the world began to study the operation in detail. What set this drone strike apart was not just its effectiveness, but its sophistication. The attack had been meticulously planned. With intelligence gathered from multiple sources, satellite imagery, intercepted communications, and even local informants, the drones themselves were a marvel of improvisation. Commercial quadcopters modified with custom guidance systems and warheads, assembled in workshops far from the front lines. Each drone was programmed with a specific flight path, designed to exploit gaps in Russian radar coverage and avoid known anti-aircraft positions. The operators, many of them young and highly educated, worked in teams, each responsible for a cluster of drones. Communication was constant, with real-time updates relayed through encrypted channels. When one drone encountered resistance, others adjusted their routes, ensuring that the attack remained coordinated and overwhelming. This level of flexibility was something traditional artillery or airstrikes could rarely achieve. The result was a precision assault that left Russian defenses reeling. International observers took note. NATO officials praised the ingenuity of the Ukrainian forces, while defense ministries in Europe and Asia began to rethink their own doctrines. The age of the drone had arrived, and with it, a new set of challenges and opportunities. For Ukraine, the success was a validation of months of experimentation and adaptation. For Russia, it was a wake-up call, a reminder that technological superiority could be fleeting, and that the battlefield was evolving faster than ever before. The lessons of Novopil would echo far beyond the borders of Ukraine, shaping the future of conflict for years to come in the days that followed. The impact of the drone strike rippled through both military and civilian spheres. Ukrainian commanders wasted no time ordering follow-up operations to exploit the breach. Reconnaissance units pushed deeper into territory that had been under Russian control just hours before. They found more abandoned vehicles, hastily discarded weapons, and evidence of a hasty, disorganized retreat. The psychological effect was profound. Russian troops, once emboldened by their numerical and technological advantage, now moved with caution, wary of unseen threats lurking above every field and forest. Civilians and liberated. Villages greeted Ukrainian soldiers with relief and gratitude. For many, the drone strike was not just a military victory, but a turning point in their daily lives. Families who had spent months hiding from shelling and occupation emerged to reclaim their homes. Local officials quickly organized efforts to restore basic services, electricity, water, and communications. The sense of hope was palpable, tempered by the knowledge that the conflict was far from over. Yet for the first time in months, there was a sense that the tide had turned. Internationally, the strike became a case study in asymmetric warfare. Military academies dissected the operation, highlighting the importance of adaptability, intelligence, and innovation. Defense contractors scrambled to develop new counter-drone technologies, while governments debated the ethical and strategic implications of autonomous weapons. The world had witnessed a glimpse of the future, a battlefield where small, expensive machines could change the course of a war. For Ukraine, the message was clear: with determination and creativity, even the most formidable adversary could be forced to retreat. The aftermath of the strike, gold, continued to reverberate through Russian command structures. Reports of the rout at Novopel reached Moscow, where senior officers convened emergency meetings to reassess their strategy. The loss of so much equipment, and the speed with which it happened, forced a reckoning. Russian state media struggled to spin the defeat, but the truth was already spreading through encrypted chats and social networks. Soldiers at the front whispered about the invisible hunters that could strike without warning, and commanders began to question the reliability of their own defenses. The sense of invincibility that had once defined Russian armored columns was gone, replaced by a new and unfamiliar fear. Meanwhile, Ukrainian engineers and tacticians worked tirelessly to refine their methods. Each successful mission brought new insights, new tactics, and new confidence. The drone teams became legends among their peers, their exploits recounted in mess halls and command briefings. For the first time, Ukrainian forces were not just reacting to Russian moves, they were dictating the tempo of the conflict. The world watched as a nation under siege turned the tables, using ingenuity and courage to outmaneuver a larger foe. But as the sun set over the smoldering wreckage at Novopil, one question lingered in the minds of soldiers and civilians alike. If a handful of drones could force a retreat and reshape the battlefield in a single morning, what would come next? The answer, everyone knew, would define not just the next phase of the war, but the very future of warfare itself. The age of the drone had arrived, and its story was only beginning.